Elias Ward had trained for first contact for 7 years, and not once had any instructor warned him about thinking too loudly. He stood inside the main audience chamber of the alien flagship, his posture straight, his hands relaxed at his sides. The room was vast and smooth, made of dark metal that reflected light like still water. Tall pillars rose into the ceiling, glowing with soft lines of blue energy. Everything felt quiet, controlled, and powerful. This was the Karai Dominion's command vessel, and standing in front of him was one of the most dangerous beings in known space. High strategist Valeth. She was taller than any human Elias had ever seen. Her body was built differently. Longer limbs, a narrow waist, and a balance that looked almost impossible. Her skin was a deep silver blue, smooth and unmarked. Her eyes were large, faceted, and bright, watching him with calm focus. Elias reminded himself to breathe. The translator band around his head hummed softly. It was new technology, still experimental. The Karai did not rely only on spoken language. Their communication used layered signals, sound, subtle body movement, and something else humans were still struggling to understand. Neural resonance, thought-adjacent signals, which was exactly why Elias had been chosen. He scored high in mental discipline tests. He was calm under pressure, or so the report said. Valeth stepped forward. The floor beneath her feet responded with faint light. Every Karai officer in the chamber turned slightly toward her, as if her presence adjusted gravity itself. "Human representative," she said, her voice smooth and even. "You will state your purpose clearly." Elias swallowed and spoke slowly. "I am Elias Ward, envoy of the Terran Coalition. I am here to open peaceful dialogue and establish mutual understanding." The translator worked perfectly. The words flowed into the Karai language without delay. So far, so good. Violith studied him in silence. Her gaze moved over him, not judging, not hostile, just observing. Elias's heart was beating fast. He was very aware of how small he felt in that room. Then, as Violith turned slightly to address her counsel, Elias noticed the way her armor curved around her body. The Karai did not wear armor for protection. It was ceremonial, designed to reflect status and role. His brain made a thought it should not have made. "That's not how human anatomy works. The balance point must be..." The thought slipped. It did not stay inside his head. The translator band pulsed sharply. The room went silent. Elias felt it before he understood it. A cold pressure washed over his scalp, like static crawling under his skin. His stomach dropped. Valeth stopped moving. Every Karai officer turned fully toward Elias. One of them placed a hand on a weapon that looked capable of cutting a ship in half. Elias's mind raced. What just happened? Then Valeth spoke. "Your observation is inaccurate," she said calmly, "but your curiosity is noted." Elias froze. She was looking directly at him now, not angry, not confused, interested. Elias started, then stopped. His mouth felt dry. "High strategist, I believe there has been a translation error."
"There has not," Violeth replied. "Your unspoken analysis regarding my physical structure was transmitted clearly. The words hit him like a meteor."
Unspoken analysis. Oh no. Elias's face went hot. His ears burned. He could feel every eye in the chamber on him. "I sincerely apologize," he said quickly. "That thought was private and unintended." Valeth tilted her head slightly. "Private?" "Yes," Elias said, his voice tight. "Humans have thoughts that are not meant to be shared." A murmur moved through the chamber. Not sound, but energy. The Karai officers exchanged subtle signals Elias could not read. Valith stepped closer.
How do you determine which thoughts are permitted and which are not? She asked.
Elias blinked. He had expected anger, threats, maybe death. Not questions. We don't always, he said honestly. Some thoughts are automatic, instinctive.
They don't reflect intent. Valith considered this.
Your species allows uncontrolled mental activity? Yes, Elias said. All the time. That caused a stronger reaction. One officer stiffened. Another's crest flared with light. Valith raised one finger. The chamber went still again. Fascinating, she said. Elias was not sure that was a good word to hear from the commander of a species that controlled half the sector.
You are embarrassed, Valith continued. Explain why. Elias hesitated.
Every diplomatic rule screamed at him to be careful. But lying now felt worse because I did not intend disrespect, he said. And because humans feel discomfort when private thoughts are exposed without consent. Valith studied him closely. Her eyes shifted, focusing inward for a moment, as if she were listening to something beyond the room. The Karai experience no separation between thought and identity, she said. If a thought exists, it represents truth. Elias shook his head slightly. For humans, thoughts can be random. Even wrong. Wrong thoughts? One of the council members asked sharply.
Yes, Elias said. Thoughts without meaning.
Without purpose. The chamber felt heavier. Violet looked back at him. Then your species is mentally unstable. Elias almost laughed. Almost. That's not entirely false, he said. A pause followed. Then, unexpectedly, a soft ripple of sound moved through the chamber. Laughter. It was not human laughter. It was sharper, more precise, but it was unmistakable. The Karai officers froze in shock. Valith had laughed.
Your honesty is inefficient,
She said, but refreshing. Elias stared at her. I'm glad? Valith turned to her counsel. The human did not insult me. He revealed a flaw in his own species, without defense or deception. One council member stepped forward. High strategist, allowing such mental disorder near you is dangerous. Valith's eyes hardened. Dangerous things reveal truth? She looked back at Elias. Your translator device, does it always transmit unfiltered mental content? No, Elias said quickly. It's supposed to block subconscious signals. I think the resonance field here overwhelmed it. Valith nodded. Then this was an accident. Yes, Elias said. A very bad one. Valith paused. Then she did something no human had ever seen a Karai leader do. She extended one hand, palm open. In Karai culture, she said, an accident reveals more than intention.
You will remain.
Elias's heart skipped. Remain. As a prisoner. No, Valith replied. As an observer. The council erupted in silent protest signals. Byleth ignored them. You will assist me, she continued. Your species' uncontrolled cognition may provide strategic insight. Elias had no idea how an embarrassing thought had turned into this. I will cooperate fully, he said.
I expect you will, Valith replied. You have already proven incapable of hiding yourself.
Guards escorted Elias through the long corridors of the ship. His legs felt weak, but his mind was racing. He was still alive. More than that, he had been noticed. As he was led away, he glanced back once. Violet was watching him, not with judgment, with curiosity. And somewhere deep in his chest, beneath the fear and humiliation, Elias felt something else forming. A sense that this accident had changed everything. Elias Ward did not sleep. The room given to him was not a cell, but it felt close enough. Smooth walls curved gently inward, glowing faintly with soft blue light. There were no sharp corners, no doors he could see, only a seamless surface that opened silently when Karai guards appeared. He sat on the edge of a low platform that served as a bed, his hands resting on his knees. His translator band still circled his head, warm against his skin. Engineers had checked it twice since the meeting. They said it was stable now. Elias did not fully believe them. Every time a thought drifted too freely, his stomach tightened. He focused on slow breathing, on emptying his mind. It was harder than any training simulation. He kept seeing her face, High Strategist Valeth, her calm eyes, her strange laughter, the way she had looked at him, not as a problem to remove, but as something to understand. That scared him more than anger would have. The wall shimmered. Elias stood at once. The surface parted without sound, revealing Violet herself. No guards followed her. She wore lighter armor now, less ceremonial, more functional. Thin lines of light moved across it, like quiet data streams. "You are awake," she said.
Yes, Elias replied. I wasn't sure if I was allowed to sleep. You are permitted to engage in biological rest, Valus said.
But not required. That sounded very Karai. She stepped inside. The wall closed behind her. Elias realized how small the room suddenly felt.
You requested my presence, she said. I did? Elias asked, surprised.
Yes, Violet replied. Your neural activity indicated persistent concern. Elias blinked. You can read that? Not precisely, she said. But you are allowed. He let out a breath he did not know he was holding.
Sorry, there is no need, Valeth said. This is informative.
She looked around the room, then back at him.
You are not restrained.
No, Elias said.
But I assume that's optional.
If you attempted escape, Valus said calmly, you would not succeed.
That's fair,
Elias said. She studied him for a long moment. Her gaze did not feel invasive, but it was intense, like being examined by a careful machine.
You fear punishment?
She said.
Yes, Elias admitted. Also, misunderstanding!
Valeth tilted her head.
Explain!
My people are new, Elias said. We don't want first contact to be remembered as the time a human insulted a Kere leader. You did not insult me, Valeth said again. I know you said that, Elias replied.
But others might not see it that way. Valeth's eyes flickered with faint light. Others often misunderstand. She moved closer, stopping a respectful distance away.
Your thoughts interest me, Elias Ward. Not their content, but their nature. My nature? He asked. Your mind does not follow straight lines, she said. It jumps, observes, judges, regrets, questions itself.
That sounds accurate, Elias said.
Among my people, Valeth continued, a mind is trained from early development to remain aligned, focused, controlled.
That sounds exhausting, Elias said before thinking. He winced.
Violet did not react with offense. Instead, she seemed to consider it.
It is efficient, she said. Sure, Elias said.
But do you ever wonder what you're not thinking? Valeth was silent. That question, she said slowly, does not make sense. Elias nodded.
That's the difference. She looked at him with renewed intensity. Your species accepts mental chaos. We live with it, Elias said.
Sometimes we even like it. Why? Valeth asked. Elias thought for a moment. Because chaos leads to ideas. Mistakes lead to discovery.
Valeth turned slightly, pacing the room. Mistakes are inefficiency.
Sometimes, Elias agreed. But sometimes they save lives. She stopped. Explain. Humans are bad at following perfect plans, Elias said.
But we're good at adapting when things go wrong.
Valeth faced him again. This adaptability? Is it intentional? No, Elias said. It's survival. Her eyes brightened. That reaction made his skin prickle. A soft tone filled the room. Elias's translator pulsed gently. Your presence has caused disruption, Valeth said.
Several council members oppose your continued proximity, Elias swallowed. I figured. They fear contamination, she continued.
Of doctrine. Of discipline. And you? Elias asked quietly. I do not fear this, Valeth said. I seek to understand it. This time, Elias did not move. You revealed an unguarded thought, she said.
Yet you did not defend it. You acknowledged embarrassment. Yes, Elias said.
That's human. Embarrassment indicates self-awareness, Valeth said. A trait we do not emphasize. Does that mean you don't feel it? Elias asked.
Valeth paused. We experience functional discomfort when our performance fails. That's
Close, Elias said.
But not the same. No, Valeth agreed. There was a strange quiet between them. Not awkward. Just full. High strategist, Elias said carefully. Why am I really here? Valeth did not answer immediately. When your thought was transmitted, she said, you experienced fear, then shame, then honesty. Yes, Elias said. You did not attempt to alter your internal state, she continued. You did not deny. I didn't have time, Elias said. Time was not the factor, Valeth said. Instinct was. She looked directly at him. In moments of exposure, your species defaults to truth. Elias had never thought of it that way. That's not always true, he said. Enough to matter, Valeth replied. She turned toward the wall. With a subtle gesture, it opened again. Walk with me, she said. Elias hesitated only a second before following. They moved through wide corridors, lined with soft, light, and quiet movement. Chirae officers passed them, pausing briefly, their attention sharp and wary. Elias could feel their thoughts pressing at the edges of his mind. Not words, but focused, intent. It was uncomfortable. They entered a vast observation chamber. One wall was transparent, revealing stars drifting slowly by. Elias stopped without meaning to. It's beautiful, he said. Valeth watched him instead of the stars. You respond emotionally to scale? Yeah, Elias said softly. It reminds us how small we are. And yet, Valeth said, your species still challenges the unknown. Because it's there, Elias said with a small smile. She considered that. You are to remain as my liaison. Valeth said, you will observe, speak, think. That last part worries me, Elias said. It should, Valeth replied. She faced him fully now. I will expose you to Karai strategic processes, she said. In return, you will allow me to observe your cognition without suppression. Elias felt a chill. You want me to think freely? Yes. That could go very badly, Elias said. That is acceptable, Valeth replied. He laughed softly.
You're serious?
Yes, she said. Elias looked at the stars again, then back at her. If I agree, he said, what happens if I offend someone else? Vela's gaze hardened slightly.
Then they will learn.
Elias took a slow breath.
All right,
he said. I'll try. Good, Velith said. She turned back toward the stars. Your people believe strength lies in control. Some do, Elias said. Others think it's about knowing when you don't have it. Velith glanced at him. Which do you believe? Elias thought for a moment. Truly thought. I think strength is surviving your own mistakes, he said. Amari stepped through the unsearching. Velith was silent for a long time. Then she said very quietly, that is a concept we have not yet mastered. Elias felt the weight of that statement settle into him. He had not planned to change anything. But as the stars drifted past, and the most powerful strategist in the sector stood beside him listening, he realized something important. The accident had not ended. It had only begun. The first crisis came without warning. Elias was in the strategic observation hall when the alarms began. They were not loud, no blaring sirens, no flashing red lights. Instead, the soft blue glow of the room shifted to a sharp white, and a low vibration passed through the floor. Every Karai officer straightened at once. Velith stood at the center platform, her posture calm, her mind already working. Streams of data appeared in the air around her, forming layered images of space, ships, and moving vectors.
Report, she said. A senior tactician stepped forward.
Unidentified fleet emerging from subspace at the edge of controlled territory. Configuration matches the Raltec Empire.
Elias felt his chest tighten. He knew the name. Everyone in the coalition did. The Raltec were aggressive, expansion-driven, and had little interest in diplomacy. They respected only power, and they tested it constantly. They are early, another officer added. Their approach vector avoids our outer sensor net. Precision suggests long-term observation. Velith's eyes narrowed slightly. They have been watching. Yes, High Strategist. Elias swallowed. He had been allowed into this chamber as an observer, just as Velith promised. But now, surrounded by disciplined alien minds and unfolding threat, he felt very human again. Velith noticed his tension. Speak, she said. Elias hesitated. Every instinct told him to stay quiet. He was not a soldier here, not a commander, just a human who thought too loudly. But that, apparently, was why he was here. If they're avoiding your sensors, Elias said slowly, they already know how you think. Several officers turned toward him sharply.
Bael raised one hand, silencing them. Continue.
Elias took a breath, which means they're expecting you to respond the way you always do. Explain, Vela said. You're precise, Elias said. Careful. Perfect formation, perfect response.
If they studied you long enough, they know exactly where you'll be in 10 moves.
The chamber grew tense.
That is an assumption, one officer said coldly. It's also how humans plan ambushes, Elias replied.
You don't attack strength. You attack predictability. Violeth looked back at the tactical display. The Raltec fleet was spreading, slow and deliberate, like a net tightening.
What would your species do? She asked. Elias stared at the projection.
His mind jumped ahead, connecting patterns, imagining worst outcomes. We'd do something stupid. A ripple of confusion passed through the room. Stupid? Velith repeated. Unreasonable, Elias clarified. Something that doesn't make sense. Something that forces them to react instead of plan.
That is reckless, an officer said.
Sometimes, Elias agreed, but it breaks expectation. Valeth was silent.
Her gaze shifted inward again, deep calculation running beneath her calm exterior. The Raltic fleet accelerated.
They are moving to cut us off from the relay corridor, the tactician reported. If successful, reinforcements will be delayed.
Valeth made a decision. Prepare defensive alignment. Pattern Theta. The officers moved instantly, their coordination flawless. Elias's stomach sank. Pattern Theta was textbook. Clean. Predictable. He looked at Valeth. She was focused, but he could sense hesitation, a subtle disturbance in her mental rhythm. She was thinking about his words. "High strategist," Elias said quietly. Several officers stiffened. Interrupting now was dangerous. Valeth turned her head slightly.
You perceive an alternative? Yes, Elias said.
But you're not going to like it. State it, she said. Let them think they've won, Elias said.
Pull back! Expose a weakness that isn't real! That contradicts all carried doctrine, an officer snapped.
I know, Elias said. That's the point. Valeth faced him fully now.
Such deception requires emotional projection, false fear.
False retreat. Humans do that all the time, Elias said, even when we don't mean to. Silence fell. The Raltec fleet split into attack formation. Time was running out. Valeth closed her eyes for half a second. When she opened them, something had changed. Cancel pattern theta, she said. Shock rippled through the chamber. High strategist, the tactician began.
Execute pattern ward, Valeth continued. The tactician froze.
That pattern does not exist.
It does now, Valeth said. I will define it. Her eyes flicked to Elias.
You will assist.
Elias's heart slammed against his ribs.
Me?
Yes, Valeth said. Think. He did. Hard. Ideas poured out, half-formed, messy, contradictory. He imagined how a human fleet would fake weakness, how panic would look, how desperation would feel.
Drop shields unevenly, Elias said. Not all at once.
Make it look like a system failure. Expose engines, Valeth added, catching on. But reinforce internal structure.
Let them see confusion, Elias said.
Crossed signals, delayed responses. The Caray officers hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. This is disorder, one said.
This is bait, Valeth corrected. The commands went out.
On the display, the Caray fleet shifted. Lines broke. Formation wavered. Shields flickered.
The Raltec reacted immediately. They are advancing aggressively, the tactician said. They believe we are compromised.
Elias held his breath. Good, he whispered. The Raltec ships surged forward, tightening their formation, confident now. Too confident. Now, Elias said.
Violeth raised her hand. Collapse inward. Open.
Focus fire on the lead vessels only. The Caray fleet snapped back into perfect alignment, but only at the center. The outer ships continued their apparent retreat. The Raltec were caught in between. Energy lit the void. The first Raltec cruiser shattered. Then another. Confusion spread through their ranks.
They are attempting to reorganize, the tactician said. They can't, Elias said.
They're reacting emotionally now. Valeth's eyes gleamed. So this is the power of chaos. The battle was brutal but short. Deprived of their planned advantage, the Raltec fleet withdrew, leaving wreckage and stunned silence behind. The chamber remained still for several long seconds. Then the officers turned toward Elias. Their expressions were unreadable. Valeth stepped down from the platform. You disobeyed protocol, she said to him. Elias's heart sank.
I know. You introduced instability into a flawless system, she continued.
Yes, Elias said quietly. She stopped in front of him. And it worked, she said. The words carried weight far beyond praise. One officer spoke, voice tight. High strategist, this human compromised command integrity. Valeth did not look away from Elias.
This human expanded it.
She turned to the council members now entering the chamber, drawn by the aftermath.
The raw tech tested us,
Valeth said, and failed. The council member's gaze locked onto Elias. Because of him? Yes. Valeth replied. That is unacceptable, the council member said. A species ruled by uncontrolled thought should not influence Kerai's strategy. Valeth's voice hardened. A species ruled by control alone becomes blind. The council chamber erupted into silent argument, sharp mental signals clashing like blades. Elias felt suddenly exposed. He had helped win a battle, but he had also made enemies. Later, alone again in his quarters, Elias finally sat down. His hands shook now that the adrenaline was fading. He had almost gotten himself killed. Again. The wall shimmered. Valeth entered without announcement. You are unsettled, she said. Yeah, Elias replied. That happens after you help rewrite alien doctrine. That was not your intention, she said.
No, Elias admitted.
I just didn't want us to die. She studied him carefully. Your species survives by adapting in moments of fear, she said.
Not by eliminating it. Fear keeps us honest, Elias said. Valeth was quiet for a long time.
Some among my people will move against you, she said finally. They will claim you are dangerous. Elias nodded.
They're not wrong.
They are, Valeth said. Danger is not the same as threat. She stepped closer. You revealed weakness, she continued, and turned it into strength. Elias looked up at her. Is that good? It is transformative, Valeth said. Outside, the ship moved deeper into controlled space, carrying with it a new problem and a new idea. That perhaps the most dangerous thing in the galaxy was not human weapons, but the human mind, thinking freely, refusing to stay in line. Elias woke to the low hum of the flagship's engines, the soft vibration running through the floor like a heartbeat. He stretched and sat up on the platform, rubbing his temples. Sleep had been minimal. His thoughts kept returning to the battle, to Valeth's words, and to the unshakable feeling that nothing about his position here was normal. The room's light shifted from blue to faint amber as the ship passed a cluster of stars. Elias could hear the distant murmur of activity through the walls. The Kerai never truly rested. Their minds were always working, always calculating, always aware. The wall shimmered, and Valeth stepped inside without knocking. She moved with her usual quiet authority, her armor reflecting the soft light, lines of energy tracing over her limbs like streams of thought made visible.
You are restless, she said.
I suppose that's accurate, Elias admitted. I've been thinking about what comes next.
The Raaltech may not give up so easily. Valeth's eyes narrowed. They will test us again. Your species calls it persistence. My people call it obsession.
Elias stood and followed her as she moved toward the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the transparent wall, and the sheer scale made his chest tighten.
They are not just testing our fleet, Valeth said. They are testing how we respond to unpredictability, how we respond to change. I know, Elias said. We humans are good at it. You are reckless, she replied, but effective. That combination is rare. Elias felt a blush creep up his neck. Thanks Violet didn't smile, but there was something softer in her eyes, something like acknowledgement. The next few days were intense. Elias moved between observation chambers, tactical briefings, and meetings with Kerai officers who were, to put it lightly, skeptical of him. Every interaction carried weight. Every thought he had risked being transmitted. He learned quickly to measure instinct, to balance honesty with discretion, though he still often failed. Bailiff, however, seemed to enjoy it. She challenged him constantly, asking questions about human reasoning, human instinct, and human error. Why would a species allow such chaos? She asked one evening. Would it not be better to control it entirely?
It would be boring, Elias replied.
And boring doesn't keep you alive. Valeth paused, as if considering this seriously. Boring does not challenge the mind, she said slowly.
It limits potential. Perhaps there is merit in
inefficiency. Elias allowed himself a small smile.
Exactly.
One morning, Valeth led him to a training deck, a massive chamber with holographic projections of tactical scenarios. The Braltic fleet had returned in smaller scouting groups, probing for weaknesses. You will assist directly, she said. Your perspective is unconventional. Elias nodded, feeling the familiar mixture of fear and excitement. His mind raced through possibilities. Each decision had consequences. He knew Curie officers would follow him only if he spoke confidently, yet every instinct warned him to be cautious. The scenario began. The Raltic fleet appeared on the projection, moving in patterns that suggested they expected a traditional Kerai response. Elias noticed small delays in their formation. Their ships reacted predictably, as if anticipating Violeth's moves rather than adapting to the environment. Exaggerate their expectations, he said quickly. Pretend to retreat slightly. Make the outer ships look exposed, but reinforce the inner core. Valeth observed quietly, her eyes flicking to him for confirmation. Do it, she commanded. The Curie officers hesitated. Pattern deviation was not something they practiced. But they obeyed. The holographic fleet shifted. Outer lines wavered. Energy fields pulsed as if signaling failure. Good, Elias muttered. Now add confusion signals to the communications. Force the Raltec to guess at intentions. The exercise intensified. Each decision, each suggestion from Elias caused ripples through the projected battlefield. What began as an exercise in defense became a lesson in human unpredictability. Byleth watched him intently. You leverage chaos as strength, she said.
Your species is adaptive in ways we cannot easily replicate.
Elias shrugged. We survive because we can think outside the plan. We improvise. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But we keep trying. The simulation ended with a decisive victory. The Raltic fleet neutralized in the holographic scenario. Officers nodded, some reluctantly, recognizing the merit in the human method. Valeth turned to him, her expression unreadable.
You may think this is simple improvisation, she said.
But it is a fundamental challenge to Kerai doctrine. You have proven a principle without intention to do so. I was trying to survive, Elias said, voice low. Survival is instructive, she replied, and revealing of character. As the days passed, Elias found himself in increasingly direct collaboration with Valeth. He began to notice small changes in her demeanor. Moments of curiosity where she lingered on his explanations, subtle adjustments in her posture, as if she were studying not only his thoughts but his reactions. He also noticed the way other Kerai officers reacted. Some were openly skeptical, their energy sharp and watchful, while others observed him silently, unsure whether to admire or fear the human's influence. During one meeting, a council member confronted him directly. High strategist, this human may influence your decisions dangerously. He lacks discipline. He may mislead you. Vela's gaze fixed on Elias. You see, human, That my people do not always trust your methods, she said softly. But I do.
Explain why they should.
Elias took a breath.
Because they have never faced unpredictability the way we do.
They see order as absolute. But the universe is not absolute. It responds to action, not just plan. Humans survive because we adapt instantly, honestly, and without fear of embarrassment or failure. The room went silent. Even the skeptical council member faltered, the weight of Elias's words pressing on them. Valeth nodded once. Then we proceed, as necessary. Later, when they were alone, Elias found himself asking a question he did not expect to voice. Hi, strategist. Do you ever envy the human mind? Valeth regarded him carefully. Envy is an emotion I do not indulge often.
But your perspective is enlightening.
It forces reconsideration of what is possible. You mean my mistakes? Elias asked with a small, nervous laugh.
Not merely mistakes, she said. Your authenticity.
Your willingness to act despite error. That is unusual among sentient species. He felt his heart pound. Being praised by the Kerai was not a trivial matter. It was far more meaningful than any human accolade. Days turned into a week. The Raltec scouts continued probing, but Elias and Valeth worked together to anticipate each movement, combining Kerai precision with human improvisation. Each successful maneuver strengthened his position, both politically and personally. Elias began to notice small, almost imperceptible gestures from Valeth, an inclination of the head, a pause longer than necessary when he spoke, a fleeting shadow of curiosity in her faceted eyes. He also began to feel something else. An unexpected bond forming. Not friendship as humans define it, nor loyalty in the sense of military command, but something subtler, a connection built on trust, on respect, on the shared understanding that life depended on the fusion of two very different minds. One evening, as they watched the stars pass by, Elias ventured another observation. You seem less rigid around me, he said carefully. Valeth turned to him. Rigid is not efficient, she said. But efficiency does not preclude observation.
You have challenged that notion. Good, Elias said.
Because I don't plan to stop. She did not respond immediately. Instead, she simply watched him, and for a moment, Elias felt as though she were looking not at him, but through him, measuring, understanding, and perhaps appreciating. The next day, the Raltec returned, not as scouts, but as a small strike force testing the fleet's defenses. Alarms sounded throughout the flagship, and officers moved quickly to stations. Elias followed Valeth to the tactical command hub, the soft glow of holograms filling the room. This is no exercise, Valeth said.
Your instincts are required.
Elias studied the display. The enemy formation mirrored the tactics they had observed before, but with subtle variation, indicating intelligence, but still predictable in its core logic. He glanced at Valeth. She was calm, as always, but he could sense her anticipation of his input.
Split the response, he said quickly. Do not follow the exact pattern.
Allow apparent weaknesses. Use the Raltec's expectation against them. She nodded, issuing rapid commands. The fleet responded with precision, but with small, deliberate deviations suggested by Elias. The enemy reacted exactly as he predicted. They pressed forward with confidence, only to find themselves exposed to counterattacks they could not anticipate. Within minutes, the battle was effectively decided. Valeth turned to Elias once it was over.
You have again demonstrated the value of uncontrolled reasoning. My people will be reluctant to accept it, but results cannot be ignored.
Elias felt both relief and pride. I didn't do it to impress anyone, I just reacted.
And that is your strength, she said softly. Not your intentions, not your strategy, but your reaction, authentic and immediate. As the fleet returned to normal operations, Elias realized that something fundamental had changed, not just in the eyes of Veilith or the Kerai Council, but in himself. He had entered the flagship as a nervous envoy, worried about an accidental thought being transmitted. He had become a participant in command, an active contributor, and a living example of human adaptability. And through it all, Veilith had been watching, observing, learning, and, perhaps in her own Kerai way, trusting him. Elias understood then that survival, strategy, and human ingenuity were intertwined, and more than that, he began to understand that sometimes the accidental, the imperfect, and the uncontrolled could become the most powerful tools in the galaxy. For the first time since arrival, he felt a quiet confidence. The Raltic threat remained, the Council's skepticism persisted, but he knew that he was no longer just a human envoy. He was a human influence, and that influence, chaotic and unpredictable, was exactly what the Kerai had underestimated, and what would make all the difference in the battles yet to come. The flagship floated through the darkness of space, silent but for the subtle hum of energy fields and the occasional whisper of officers moving through corridors. Elias Ward stood on the observation deck, staring out at the endless stars. The Raltec threat had been temporarily repelled, but he knew it was not over. No battle in this part of the galaxy was ever truly over. Veilith appeared behind him, moving, without sound. She paused a step away, her presence both commanding and strangely reassuring. "You have done well," she said. Elias shrugged. "I did what I could." "You and your fleet did most of the work." Veilith's eyes, faceted and intense, regarded him closely. "You risked more than you realize." "You acted without protocol? Without permission? And yet the result is undeniable. My people and others will remember this." He swallowed, feeling the weight of her words. Recognition from Veilith was not casual praise. It was monumental. "I didn't think about being remembered," he said honestly.
I was just trying to survive and help. Survival often reveals character, she said, and character is remembered longer than actions.
Elias thought of all the moments that had brought him here, the accidental thought that had sparked her curiosity, the tense interactions with skeptical council members, the improvisations during simulations and real engagements. Each had been dangerous, yet each had shaped a new understanding between humans and Kerai. "I never expected this," he admitted. "When I first arrived, I thought one wrong thought could get me killed." Veilith tilted her head, a gesture Elias had come to interpret as deep consideration. And yet, it did not. Instead, it became a bridge. He looked at her, realizing how extraordinary that was. No human could have survived such an accidental mental transmission in most alien societies. Most would have been executed. He had been studied instead, trusted, influenced. "You changed something," Bailey said, almost quietly. "Not just outcomes, but perceptions. Not just the fleet, but my own thinking. I have seen my people question themselves because of you." Elias exhaled slowly. "I guess that's good." "It is beyond what I anticipated," she said. "You are human." He chuckled nervously. "Thanks." Veilith turned to face the stars, her voice softening.
Your species possesses traits we undervalue: instinct, chaos, honesty. You survive by embracing what is imperfect, while we strive to control all imperfection.
"That is remarkable." Elias looked at her, unsure if he should say what was on his mind. The human habit of speaking one's mind had gotten him into trouble before. But somehow, standing beside her now, he felt it was allowed. "Hi, strategist, I never wanted to impress anyone here," he said. "I just tried to be myself." Even when I failed, Veilith's gaze softened, a subtle shift that Elias had never seen in any other Kerai. "That is a rare quality,"
Their conversation was interrupted by the soft hum of the communication console.
A message from the council appeared, flagged as urgent. Elias and Valeth moved toward it, scanning the data. The Raltec had attempted another probe, a small fleet testing defenses on the outer edge. The Karai fleet's response would determine whether they were prepared for a larger assault. Valeth considered the report.
Do you believe they anticipate our current deployment? She asked.
Elias studied the movements. Partially. They are testing patterns, seeing if we repeat the same responses, but if we act unpredictably, we gain the advantage.
She nodded. Then we act. Elias and Valeth spent hours coordinating.
He suggested deviations from the standard formations, introduced small feints, and recommended simulated weaknesses. Valeth incorporated his ideas into the fleet's commands, seamlessly. The Raltec advanced, confident and precise, only to find themselves ensnared by human unpredictability combined with Karai precision. Ships that seemed exposed were protected by hidden energy fields. Apparent confusion in the fleet was a carefully orchestrated trap. One by one, the enemy vessels were neutralized or forced to retreat. Afterward, the command hub was quiet. Officers exchanged glances, some with disbelief, others with cautious respect. Valeth's presence was calm, yet her eyes, always on Elias, conveyed approval. You understand, she said after a long pause, that your actions are unprecedented.
I do,
Elias said, still catching his breath.
But it worked. Yes, she agreed.
And the results will influence more than the immediate battle. They will influence doctrine, perception, and, most importantly, trust.
Trust?
You have earned it, Valeth said simply. Trust is difficult to gain among my people, but you have it. He felt a warmth spread in his chest. Not pride, not ego, but a deep sense of connection. For the first time since arriving, he felt fully accepted, not as a human in an alien hierarchy, but as a partner in thought, strategy, and action. Over the next days, the council formally acknowledged his role. Skepticism remained, but Valeth's endorsement shielded him. He moved freely within the flagship, consulted in tactical meetings, and participated in training exercises. Each time, his perspective, human, chaotic, instinctive, proved valuable. She remained disciplined, precise, and powerful, but she sought his opinion more frequently. She lingered on his explanations, sometimes asking questions that seemed personal, though phrased in Karai formality. Small gestures, slight shifts in posture, subtle observation of his reactions, showed her growing interest in him as an individual, not merely a human representative. One evening, the two stood side by side on the observation deck, watching a distant nebula shimmer in deep violet and gold. Silence stretched comfortably between them. You have changed how I view human cognition, Viola said. And not only cognition, behavior, instinct, decision-making. Your species possesses qualities we undervalue. I never thought of it that way, Elias said. Humans just do what they must to survive. That is precisely why it is remarkable, she said. He looked at her, studying the soft light across her armor, the reflection of stars in her eyes.
Hi, strategist, thank you.
For trusting me, for giving me this chance.
Violeth's gaze met his fully. Trust is earned, she said. You have earned it repeatedly. You have also challenged me to see differently.
And that is invaluable.
Elias felt a lump form in his throat.
He had never received words like these in his life. Not from anyone. Not from humans, not from alien leaders. You have changed everything, she continued, through a simple accident, by being honest, by being human. He exhaled, finally allowing himself to feel the relief, pride, and awe of it all. I guess accidents can be useful sometimes. Valeth's expression softened further, almost imperceptibly.
Indeed, when one is willing to face them honestly. The days that followed were quieter, though still full of purpose.
The Raltic threat had diminished, and the Karai fleet adjusted to incorporate some of Elias's insights into doctrine. Officers who had doubted him slowly acknowledged his influence. Elias spent more time with Valeth, observing, consulting, and learning. They moved together through the corridors of the flagship, discussed strategy in the training chambers, and watched stars drift by from the observation deck. Each moment built understanding of tactics, of human nature, and of the value of honesty and unpredictability. Each moment also built a bond between them, subtle, cautious, and growing. One morning, as they reviewed reports from the fleet, Valeth paused and regarded him closely. "Elias Ward," she said, "it is clear that humanity possesses potential beyond what many would predict. You have proven that a single mind operating freely can influence the course of a fleet and the perception of an entire species."
Elias felt a surge of both pride and humility.
"I didn't do it alone," he said. "You allowed me to act, to think. That made the difference." Valeth inclined her head. "Perhaps, but your willingness to embrace imperfection, to act without certainty, is what truly matters. That is your gift." For a long moment, they simply observed the stars together. The galaxy stretched infinitely before them, full of dangers, wonders, and possibilities. Elias realized that what had begun as an embarrassing accident, the accidental thought that revealed his mind to the high strategist, had grown into something extraordinary. Through trust, courage, and honesty, he had bridged a gap between species. He had changed perceptions, influenced strategy, and survived against odds that would have crushed any human unprepared for the vast discipline of the Karai. And Valeth had acknowledged him, not merely as a human, but as an equal in thought and action. Elias exhaled, letting the weight of the journey settle into him. He had come to the flagship as a nervous envoy, uncertain, overwhelmed, and embarrassed. He would leave, or remain. In the future, as someone who had earned respect, trust, and a place in the minds of a species whose power spanned the stars. He looked at Valeth and allowed a small, genuine smile.
"Accidents," he said softly, "aren't always bad."
Valeth's eyes glimmered. "Indeed. Sometimes they reveal the truth of potential, both human and otherwise." The stars drifted past, silent witnesses to the first real bridge between two very different species, and for the first time, Elias felt that he truly belonged, not just as a human observer, but as a participant, a contributor, and perhaps even a friend to one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. In that moment, he understood that survival, honesty, and the courage to act freely were not just traits, they were the greatest weapons, the strongest bridges, and the very essence of humanity. The galaxy was vast, the threats numerous, and the challenges unending. But Elias Ward was ready. And so, in the quiet hum of the flagship, with stars stretching endlessly around them, a human and a Karai strategist stood together, having turned a moment of accidental embarrassment into a lasting legacy of understanding, trust, and respect. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, it was theirs to shape.